Welcome to Buddha in Mind, a quiet space to awaken deep reflections on the Dharma and mindful living. In this video, we will explore why Buddhism is unlike any other religion, and why it may be the very path you have been seeking. When we think of religion, most of us imagine solemn rituals, sacred doctrines, and an almighty being dwelling somewhere in the unseen realm. Religion, in its common understanding, is tied to metaphysical ideas such as God, heaven, or salvation after death. A firm system of beliefs where people find comfort amid life's uncertainties. Yet when we come to Buddhism, we encounter a curious paradox. Why is it called a religion when the Buddha did not teach about a creator, did not affirm an eternal heaven, and did not build a rigid set of mandatory dogmas? Buddhism does not demand that we believe. It simply encourages us. Experience it and realize the truth for yourself. What is special about the Buddha's teaching is how quietly it flows into life. Like a small, gentle stream, it does not proclaim loudly nor paint a distant paradise, but invites us to turn inward and observe ourselves, in each breath, each movement of body and mind. Instead of saying, "Believe to understand," the Buddha advised, "Understand, then believe." And to understand, you must practice, you must experience, you must wade through the inner waves of your own mind to see where the truth truly lies. In Buddhism, truth does not come from another's persuasion, but from the awakening within you. That is why Buddhism is more than a religion. It is a way of life. A path of mindful, liberated living, free from coercion and divine authority, grounded only in wisdom, compassion, and direct experience. If you are seeking a safe refuge that promises certain answers to every question in life, Buddhism may not be for you. But if you long to see deeper into the nature of life, if you have the courage to face the truth, Buddhism will open a door to an entirely new way of seeing. In that view, there is no creator God to take responsibility and no immortal soul to cling to. There is only the reality present here and now. This body, this breath, these feelings, this mind, all in constant change. Buddhism does not deny religious faith, but it does not rely on it for liberation. The Buddha pointed out, the path to freedom lies not outside of you, but within yourself. Dear friend, in the modern world, where people are surrounded by noise, by endless information, by goals they feel they must achieve, the Buddha's teachings are more essential than ever. You don't need to shave your head or live a life of asceticism. All you need is to pause for a moment, listen for a moment, and you will see the light within yourself. Imagine an early morning when the city has yet to wake. You sit there, hands resting on your chest, feeling the steady beat of your heart, the in and out flow of your breath. In that moment, if you are fully present, you have already begun to walk the path the Buddha once pointed to. Because the Buddha is not somewhere far away. The Buddha is awakening itself. It is the clear seeing in each experience. It is the ability to face pain without running away. The ability to accept change without clinging or resisting. The Buddha is not confined to an altar, but is found in your very mindfulness. Right here, right now. And this is what makes Buddhism unlike a religion in the conventional sense. It does not persuade, threaten, or embellish. It simply and gently invites you to return. Return to yourself. Return to reality. So if you have ever felt puzzled when someone calls Buddhism a religion without religion, you are not alone. Many great Western thinkers have been equally struck when encountering the Buddha's teachings. Philosopher Nietzsche called Buddhism a system of thought not based on illusion. Scientist Einstein believed that if there is any religion that would cope with modern scientific needs, it would be Buddhism. Not because Buddhism talks about atoms or the cosmos, but because it always encourages verification, observation, and direct experience, rather than blind belief. And you know, this is also what makes Buddhism especially relevant for us. People living in an age of speed, skepticism, and quiet psychological crises. When the outer world becomes too chaotic, people begin to turn inward. When success no longer brings happiness, they start to ask, who am I? Why am I alive? How can I truly be at peace? This is when the Buddha's teachings reach us. Not with noise, not with grandeur, but seeping in slowly, like fine rain, like morning mist, gently calming the storms within. We will continue to explore deeper aspects of this wisdom in the next parts. But for now, take a few minutes simply to breathe and be present. No need to try to be spiritual or enlightened. Just being here with yourself, that is already a beginning. Thank you for walking alongside Buddha in mind. If you find this content meaningful, please support the channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing it with those you love. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next steps in this journey of awakening. Together, we have walked through the first doorway into the Buddha's teachings. A religion without religion, a path without imposition, where truth is not handed to you but discovered by yourself. And in that journey of discovery, perhaps one of the most distinctive things about Buddhism is the way the Buddha viewed the concept of God and the soul. While most religions are built on faith in an all-powerful creator, the Buddha chose to remain silent. He neither denied nor affirmed the existence of God. Not out of disrespect, but because, in his view, it was not an essential question for liberation. He did not seek someone to bestow happiness. Instead, he pointed out the path by which each person could discover happiness here and now. In Buddhism, suffering does not arise from the absence of God, but from the mind's constant craving, clinging, and fleeing from reality. When we place our hope in a supernatural being to solve our suffering, we unconsciously give away responsibility for our own life. The Buddha wanted us to see that we alone carry the responsibility for this life, no one else. Likewise, Buddhism does not build its teachings around an eternal soul, a fixed, unchanging entity that survives forever after death. The Buddha saw life as a chain of causes and conditions, where everything arises, connects, and eventually dissolves. There is no independent self, no solid ego, only the unceasing flow of phenomena. This may feel unfamiliar, even vague, but if you look closely at your own life, you'll see it is very near. The body you have today is not the same as it was 10 years ago. The mind you have today is not the same as it was yesterday. Everything changes. So what exactly is me? Who is the one who is sad, happy, or suffering? When you look deeply at this question with awareness, you will see I is just a label, a concept created by the mind. Clinging to that I is the root of suffering. For once we believe in an unchanging self, we begin to protect it, defend it, compare, envy, and struggle for it to be recognized. Yet the nature of life is impermanence. Everything comes and goes, including ourselves. Understanding this, we begin to live more lightly. We no longer have to prove ourselves or fight to preserve an image. Instead, we live like a river, flowing, adapting, yet never losing our essence. We live in the present, aware that each moment is unique and worthy of our full attention. The Buddha did not promise heaven after death. He taught that heaven and hell both begin in the mind. When your mind is full of anger, you are living in hell. When your mind is full of love, you are already in heaven. You don't have to wait until another life to feel this. You can experience it right now, simply by returning to yourself. In Buddhism, there is a beautiful image. The candle. A candle is not a fixed, unchanging thing. It is the coming together of wick, wax, and flame. When one candle is used to light another, the flame is passed on, but nothing tangible has actually moved. This is how the Buddha explained the flow of life. There is no permanent soul, yet there is continuity of karma, of consciousness, of actions and thoughts. You do not need to believe this blindly. The Buddha does not ask you to believe. He simply says, "See for yourself. It is like drinking a glass of water. No one can perfectly describe the sensation to you. You must taste it, feel it, and only then will you truly know its flavor." Life is the same. If you are suffering, observe your suffering. If you are confused, look directly into that confusion. Without judgment, without running away, simply be present, like a friend who listens. For only when you accept reality exactly as it is, will you have the chance to transform it. This is the essence of Buddhism. Not trying to fix the world before you understand yourself, and not blaming the world for the unrest within you. The path of practice is the path of returning to your inner world, to see that all answers lie in the silence, in the breath, in your own awareness. Dear friend, sometimes what we need most is not more knowledge, but fewer preconceptions. Not to go farther away, but to come closer to ourselves, to the present moment, to the life unfolding right now. And Buddhism does not hand you a detailed map, it simply places a lamp in your hand, so you may light your own way and walk your own steps. When the Buddha looked deeply into the roots of suffering, he did not begin with metaphysical theories or distant promises. He began with a deeply human truth. Life is suffering, not to plant seeds of pessimism, but to invite us to look directly at what silently unfolds in our hearts each day. Restlessness, anxiety, emptiness, disappointment. Even when we try to ignore them, they are still present in the pulse of modern life. And it is from this honest acknowledgement that the path of liberation can truly begin. The Four Noble Truths, the Buddha's profound revelation, form the foundation of all practice. The first truth is the truth of suffering, dukkha. Suffering is everywhere. Not only the pain of the body, but also the quiet dissatisfaction that lingers even when we have much in our hands. This is because everything in life changes, while our mind constantly longs for something lasting. From here, the Buddha pointed to the second truth, the truth of the cause of suffering, samudaya, craving and attachment. Not just desire for material things, but the clinging to everything, fame, affection, self-image. The more we try to hold on, the more we fear losing, and fear itself is the shadow of suffering. Yet the Buddha did not stop at this sorrowful truth. The third truth, the truth of the cessation of suffering, nirodha, affirms that suffering can end. Not in some distant afterlife, not by becoming a saint, but here and now, if you dare to let go. When your heart no longer clings, you will discover a quiet, deep happiness, not from what you have, but from what you no longer need to grasp. And then comes the fourth truth, the truth of the path. Magga, the way to extinguish suffering, is the noble eightfold path. 8 interwoven elements that help us live mindfully and in harmony with the truth of life. The eightfold path is not 8 steps to follow in strict order. It is like 8 branches of a single tree, each nourishing the others, each guiding us back to ourselves. Right view, seeing clearly, is the first foundation, not blind belief, but the direct perception of impermanence in all things. When you see that nothing lasts forever, you begin to live with greater lightness. Right thought, thinking clearly, is letting go of harmful thoughts, anger, jealousy, greed. Instead, we nurture loving kindness, understanding, and a generous outlook toward ourselves and others. Right speech, speaking truthfully and kindly, is learning to use words as wholesome seeds. A single word can lift and heal, or it can wound deeply. When speech arises from mindfulness and compassion, it becomes light. Right action, living ethically, is choosing not to harm others or ourselves. This is not only about keeping precepts, but also about planting seeds of wholesome conduct, even in the smallest acts. Right livelihood, earning a living ethically. Whatever work you do not trade away compassion for profit. In today's fast-paced world, this is even more important, as the rush for growth can easily make us lose sight of our core values. Right effort, making effort without haste, persevering without forcing. It is the effort to let go of what is unwholesome and to nurture what is wholesome. Right mindfulness, being awake in each moment, not letting the mind wander to the past or the future, but living fully in the present. Whether you are eating, walking, breathing, or working, mindfulness can be practiced. And finally, right concentration, training the mind to be steady, like a still lake. With such stability, you can see things clearly without being swept away. These 8 elements are not distant ideals. They are present in your everyday life. When you wake up, when you work, when you speak with someone, when you face challenges. The Noble Eightfold Path is not a ritual, but a way of living mindfully each day. In a world of constant change, where success is often measured by status and wealth, the Eightfold Path is like a map that helps us stay on course. It reminds us that happiness does not come from what we acquire, but from how we touch life, with a mind no longer driven by greed, anger, or ignorance. Dear friend, there is a simple yet profound truth. Suffering is not the enemy. It is the teacher. It shows us where the heart has yet to be healed. When you no longer fear suffering, you will taste freedom. And when you can be grateful even for your wounds, you will know peace. Buddhism does not teach you to avoid suffering. It teaches you to look directly at it, with the eyes of one who understands life. For when you have the courage to face it, you will see that in every tear lies the seed of awakening, and in every hardship, the chance to grow. Thank you for listening to this next step in our journey. If you feel this content has helped you understand yourself more deeply, please share it to help spread the wisdom of the Buddha to others. Subscribe to Buddha in Mind, turn on notifications, and let us continue together on the path of awakening. We have spoken of suffering, its causes, and the path to liberation. But there is one more thing the Buddha asks us to look deeply into: the mind itself. For every sorrow, every desire, every joy or grief, all begin from there. The mind is the source of all experience, not the outside circumstances, not other people, but the way we perceive, feel, and respond. That is what creates suffering or happiness. 2 people may live through the same situation, yet one feels at peace while the other feels miserable, because their minds are different. And then, the Buddha reveals a truth that is both challenging and deeply liberating. There is no fixed self, the I we cling to, the one who is angry, afraid, or eager to prove something, is merely a temporary combination of feelings, thoughts, and memories. It is not as solid as we imagine. Like a river that never stops flowing, the mind is always changing, with no single point we can truly call me. At first, this may sound unsettling, but in truth, it is a doorway to freedom. Because if the self is not fixed, then we are not bound by the past. We can change, we can let go, we can begin again. We are not yesterday's anger, nor tomorrow's worry. We are the one who is aware of these things. And that awareness can always choose a different way to live. When we understand that everything is impermanent, including ourselves, we begin to let go more lightly. We no longer cling to titles, images, success, or failure. What remains is something truly precious: mindful presence. A person who lives fully aware that they are living. That alone is already a miracle. But in the busyness of life today, how do we maintain that awareness? How do we keep from being swept away by the fast, noisy current of the modern world? The answer lies in meditation. Not as a ritual, but as a way of living. Meditation is when you drink water and know that you are drinking water. When you are angry and know clearly that you are angry. When you are sitting with your child or loved one and you are not pulled away by your phone or other thoughts. Meditation does not require you to withdraw from life. On the contrary, it invites you to return to life itself, but with a new attitude. Peace, understanding, and compassion. You can meditate while washing dishes, walking, or simply taking a deep breath in the middle of a busy workday. Every moment you are aware of yourself. You are meditating, and from these small moments, you begin to see great changes in your inner life. One of the first things you may notice is that fear begins to fade. When the mind is seen clearly, what once seemed frightening becomes understandable. You no longer run away from your emotions, but begin to befriend them. You learn to sit quietly with sadness instead of trying to cover it up with entertainment or work. You listen to your anger instead of being controlled by it, and you forgive yourself because you see that everyone is learning, everyone is growing from their own stumbles. Meditation also helps you slow down and become more grateful. Things that once felt ordinary, the sound of morning birds, the light of the late afternoon sun, the gaze of a loved one, suddenly become precious. Not because they have changed, but because your mind has changed. You begin to see beauty in simplicity. And when you live with gratitude, you're no longer lacking, because you realize you already have enough. Dear friend, the Buddha did not teach meditation as an escape, but as a way to live fully with this very life. He did not promise that you would never face difficulties, but he promised that if you are mindful, you will not be lost in them. You will stand firm like a tree in the storm because you understand that everything will pass, and you need only to remain with yourself. Meditation is not a technique, but a way of being. It does not demand perfection. It only asks you to return. No matter how many times you wander, you can always come back to your breath, come back to your mind, and begin again, gently, without judgment. Ultimately, what meditation teaches is not how to achieve something new, but how to recognize what has always been here. Clarity, love, and the capacity to live in peace in each moment. These things have never left us. We only need to pause and notice them. We are living in a world where everything moves without rest. Constant phone notifications, social media overflowing with images of success, and silent races to prove oneself. In the middle of this whirl, many feel as though they are losing themselves, feeling exhausted without knowing why, lonely even in a crowd. And then, the question grows quietly in the mind. In the end, what am I really living for? Buddhism does not hand us ready-made answers, but offers us a mirror of awareness, so we can see ourselves clearly. In that mirror, we notice what truly guides our lives: expectations, fear, or gratitude and understanding. When we are no longer swept along by society's patterns, we begin to live in alignment with our true nature, and from there, we rediscover inner freedom. One of the reasons we are so easily wounded in modern life is because we identify ourselves with our achievements. We believe we only have worth if we accomplish something: a good job, an ideal partner, or a large bank balance. But as the Buddha pointed out, all of these are impermanent. Even if you attain them, they will change, they will leave you, or you will leave them. Understanding this, you begin to lower your expectations and live more authentically. Not because you give up your dreams, but because you no longer place all your happiness in things outside yourself. Another aspect of modern life is comparison, which has quietly become woven into our daily habits. We don't just live our own lives. We're constantly looking to see where others go, what they wear, what they achieve. This comparison unsettles the mind, and we lose touch with the simple joys already present. The Buddha taught that happiness does not come from what we have, but from how we see. When we stop comparing, our hearts grow lighter, and gratitude blooms from simple things. A sunny morning, a warm meal, or the peaceful presence of a loved one. In today's society, many people pursue success but neglect meaning. Some work tirelessly for recognition, only to feel empty in the end. Some chase goals without ever pausing to ask, "Does this truly matter to me?" Buddhism does not reject success, but it reminds us to ask the deeper question, does that success make you more at peace, help you live more fully, or is it just another way to run from the unease within? A person practicing in the spirit of the Buddha does not have to leave the world behind. They can still be an entrepreneur, an artist, a scientist, or a homemaker, but with a mindful heart. The difference lies here. They know why they do what they do, and they do not define themselves by the outcome. They live with purpose, but are not bound by expectation. They place compassion and understanding above all else, because they see that everything else will eventually pass. A mindful heart is a lamp, lighting your own path, but also warming those around you. When you slow down and live more authentically, you inspire others to do the same. Your family will feel the peace within you. Your friends will find in you a steady presence they can trust. And slowly, society changes. Not through slogans, but through quiet transformations in each person's heart. Remember, you don't need to become someone else to live mindfully. You only need to return to yourself, to your breath, to your mind, to the values that were once so clear but have been forgotten in the busyness of life. When you sit quietly for just a few minutes a day, observing your own mind, you're doing what the modern world rarely dares to do, listening to yourself. And with patience, you will begin to notice something extraordinary. Beneath all fear, all wounds, all desires, there is a deep stillness, a place untouched by success or failure, praise or blame, or even time itself. This is where your heart truly touches peace. Not because of anything gained from outside, but because you have paused long enough to realize it has always been there. Dear friend, the journey of awakening is not a race. It is a journey of returning, where you leave behind heavy definitions, exhausting expectations, and begin to live more authentically, more lightly. Every mindful step you take, every breath you notice, is a step closer to freedom. And if today you have listened this far, it means you are ready to take another step along that path. Thank you for walking alongside Buddha in mind. If what you've just heard has brought you inspiration, peace, or simply a moment of stillness, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who may need this. This is how you spread light, gently but steadily, in a world that could always use a little more mindfulness and compassion. Perhaps one of the most common misunderstandings about Buddhism is the idea that it is a path of escaping life, that to practice, you must leave the world, abandon family, career, and all that is tied to daily living. But that is not entirely true. The Buddha never taught us to run away from life. He taught us to live fully in the midst of it without losing ourselves. The Dharma is not meant to take us out of reality, but to lead us back to it with awakened eyes. You can meditate while washing dishes, while playing with your child, or even during a tense meeting. Meditation is not in the posture alone, but in the fullness of presence in each moment. When you listen to someone with your whole attention, without judgment, without interrupting, that is also meditation. When you walk without rushing, feeling each step touch the earth, you are meditating. When you smile to yourself after a long, tiring day and say, "I'm still okay," you are practicing compassion for yourself. Buddhism reminds us that suffering is part of life, but it is not the whole of it. Just as the sky has clouds, the sky is not the clouds. clouds come and go. What remains is openness. The same is true for our minds. Emotions may rise and fall like waves, but the essence of the mind is stillness, the capacity to observe, the safest refuge if we know how to return. This is not easy in a world that constantly pulls us toward noise, but that is exactly why returning is so important. You may not be able to sit in meditation for an hour each day, but you can take 3 deep breaths before reacting to something. You may not yet live fully in mindfulness, but you can start with one quiet morning where you do not reach for your phone as soon as you wake. These small steps, done consistently, can change the entire direction of a life. Awakening is not a goal to be achieved. It is a way of living that you can choose every day. Each morning you can ask yourself, how will I live with my heart today? No one else can answer that for you, but the very act of asking will remind you why you are here. Not to become some perfect version of yourself, but to become fully, peacefully yourself. When you live mindfully, you also become a mirror for others. Your children will grow up in a more peaceful environment. Your partner will feel the gentleness within you. Your co-workers will see that you are not easily swept into gossip or drama. And you will see yourself more clearly in the mirror each morning, with softer eyes, less harsh and less demanding. The Buddha once said, "I am only a guide. The path is for each person to walk themselves." This statement is both humble and powerful. He does not grant blessings. He does not punish. He simply shares the light of understanding and allows each person to choose how they will walk. It is the same with you, listening to this podcast. No one is forcing you to change anything, but if, somewhere in your heart, a small spark has been lit, if something has quietly touched you, then know this: awakening has begun to take root within you. Awakening is not about becoming detached. It is about loving this life more deeply. When you live mindfully, you begin to see beauty in the smallest things. A falling leaf, the laughter of a child, or even the sadness that visits you. Everything carries meaning when you look with eyes free of judgment. Dear friend, the journey of returning to yourself is a lifelong one. There will be times when you feel you are on the right path, and times when you feel lost, disappointed, or doubtful. But please don't forget, the very moment you realize you are not mindful, you have already begun to be mindful again. Every moment of awareness is a moment of return, and you can return as many times as you need. The Dharma never closes its door to you. Thank you for walking with Buddha in mind all the way to these final lines. If today's podcast has brought you peace, understanding, or even just a little lightness in your heart, I warmly invite you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those you love. Every share is a way of helping to spread mindfulness to one more person. And who knows, it might be the beginning of their own transformation. I wish you a peaceful day, and I hope to see you again in the next podcast. And always remember, mindfulness is not somewhere far away. It begins in this very moment, when you choose to live fully, to listen deeply, and to walk with a peaceful heart.